Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the Orion Correlation. Were Egypt's pyramids a star map? Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 1994, Robert Bauval published a book proposing something remarkable: the three great pyramids at Giza, the three belt stars of Orion. Khufu and Khafre are nearly in line. Menkaure is offset to one side, precisely matching the offset of Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. The Milky Way mirrors the course of the Nile on the ground. The pyramids were not merely tombs, they were a deliberate celestial map. Bauval called it the Orion Correlation Theory, and it has been enormously influential and bitterly contested. It raised a profound question: were the ancient Egyptians intentionally encoding celestial knowledge into their most enduring monuments? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the global puzzle of unexplained ancient construction, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Archaeology is, by its nature, an incomplete science. We find only what survives, and what survives is determined not by importance, but by durability. Stone lasts, wood rots, metal corrodes, ceramics endure. The written word survives only if it is inscribed on stone or baked clay. Papyrus and vellum are hostages to humidity and fire. This means that every picture of the past, assembled from archaeological evidence, is a distortion, biased toward the materials that happen to last, rather than the activities that define the culture. With that caveat in place, the structures that do survive from the ancient world are sometimes inexplicable by any conventional model of the societies that built them. Fine stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons, fitted together with tolerances measured in millimeters, transported from quarries dozens of kilometers away, and raised to heights that challenge modern cranes. We find astronomical alignments so precise that they track the movements of specific stars over periods of thousands of years. We find architectural proportions that embed mathematical ratios, pi, phi. The Pythagorean theorem in civilizations that supposedly had no formal mathematics. The challenge these structures pose is not engineering alone. It is conceptual. How did people without our tools conceive of projects on this scale? How did they solve the organizational problems of feeding and coordinating tens of thousands of workers over decades? How did they transmit technical knowledge across generations without standardized notation? The buildings stand as proof that they did it. The question of how remains genuinely open. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns, in science, demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Orion correlation, were Egypt's pyramids a star map, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The three Giza pyramids, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, are offset from a straight line in a pattern Bauval, identified as matching the three belt stars of Orion, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. The angular offset and relative size ratios of the pyramids correspond approximately to those of the three stars. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered, Bauval calculated that the best astronomical match occurred around 10,500 BC, far earlier than the conventionally accepted construction period of 2500 BC. This dating has been rejected by mainstream Egyptologists. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this. And that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. The Egyptian pyramid texts contain explicit references to the deceased pharaoh joining Orion in the sky. Osiris was associated with Orion, and the dead king was identified with Osiris. There is therefore genuine textual evidence that Orion held special significance in Egyptian funerary religion. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the air shafts in the Great Pyramid are aligned with remarkable precision towards specific stars. The southern shaft of the king's chamber points toward Alnitak, as positioned around 2600 BC. The southern shaft of the queen's chamber points toward Sirius, associated with the goddess Isis. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of. Critics argue the match between the Giza pyramids and Orion's belt is imprecise, the angular relationship is only approximate, and the correlation ignores more than 100 other Egyptian pyramids that do not fit the pattern. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. Astronomical analysis by Ed Krupp and Roger Sellers found that the Orion correlation requires either flipping the Giza layout or using the wrong orientation to match the actual position of Orion's belt as seen from the site. This challenges the precision claimed for the correlation. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. Equally puzzling to investigators, Graham Hancock extended the Orion Correlation Theory in Fingerprints of the Gods to a broader hypothesis about a lost civilization encoding astronomical knowledge in monuments worldwide. This extension has been even more controversial. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Orion correlation. Were Egypt's pyramids a star map? This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the Giza pyramid layout was deliberately designed to mirror Orion's belt as part of a funerary program encoding the pharaoh's journey to join Osiris Orion. The precise alignment of the star shafts with specific stars is evidence that ancient Egyptians incorporated specific stellar positioning into monument design, even if Bauval's exact dating is incorrect. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the apparent correlation between the Giza layout and Orion's belt is coincidental. Egyptian pyramid builders directed their astronomical knowledge toward the north, toward circumpolar stars that never set, rather than toward Orion. This is the mainstream Egyptological position. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the Giza pyramids reflect a sophisticated celestial program, including both the stellar alignments documented by Bauval and conventional Egyptian astronomical knowledge. Representing a deliberate cosmic architecture we are only partially decoding without requiring revision to conventional construction dates. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Orion correlation, were Egypt's pyramids a star map, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes precise measurements of the star shafts in the Great Pyramid confirm astronomical alignments to specific stars at approximately 2600 BC, directly linking the pyramid to a specific astronomical moment and confirming deliberate stellar orientation. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented. The pyramid texts provide textual confirmation that the deceased pharaoh was associated with Orion in Egyptian funerary religion, establishing that the Orion association was explicitly encoded in ancient Egyptian religious thought. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the angular offset between the three Giza pyramids is real and observable. The question is whether it intentionally mirrors Orion's belt or reflects other design constraints such as geology or necropolis orientation. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Orion correlation. Were Egypt's pyramids a star map? Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Orion Correlation Theory has inspired significant public interest in Egyptian archaeoastronomy, while mainstream Egyptologists reject its more specific claims. There is genuine academic interest in the relationship between Egyptian funerary monuments and stellar alignments. Archaeoastronomy has become a serious academic discipline, and the careful investigation of how ancient cultures encoded celestial knowledge in their monuments has produced genuine insights that don't require lost civilizations to be compelling. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Orion correlation. Were Egypt's pyramids a star map? From the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Orion correlation ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process, and the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.